Welcome back to our channel, Secret Coins Wealth. These rare wheat penny coins make people rich. Let's find out why. Don't miss out one of these who know a sigil coin make you rich. Coin number 1. If you have this coin in your hand right now, you need to listen carefully. Because what looks harmless could quietly be something you should not ignore. And most people miss it completely. Right now it probably looks like just another worn penny. Dull surface, dark scratches, maybe even dirt stuck in the grooves. The kind of coin people don't even think twice about. They drop it in jars, spend it without a second thought, or throw it away without looking. But this is exactly how mistakes happen. Because coins like the Lincoln Wheat Penny and rare 1944 variations don't scream for attention. They hide in plain sight, looking completely ordinary while carrying stories most people never notice. Back in the 1940s, the world was under extreme pressure. War was draining resources. The United States Mint was rushing production at full speed. And in that chaos, mistakes happened. Strange mixtures of metals, unusual strikes, and coins that were never meant to exist quietly slipped into circulation. And when you hold one of these coins today, you might see scratches, uneven toning, rough edges, maybe even a dull copper or steel-like shine depending on the strike. Nothing that looks special at first glance, but that's exactly why people lose them. Now here's where things get dangerous for your assumption. Because the real secret is not what you see first. It's what you don't notice. Mint marks like D, missing marks, odd surfaces, or metal differences that only collectors trained in these details ever stop to question. And once you understand that, your mind shifts. Because suddenly that worthless penny in your pocket doesn't feel so worthless anymore. It feels like something you should have looked at twice before letting go. But here's the warning almost nobody takes seriously. Never clean these coins. Not even a little. Not even to make them shine. Because cleaning destroys natural history on the surface. And collectors see that instantly, wiping away value in seconds. The truth is, most of these coins never survive properly. They get spent, damaged, corroded, melted down, or simply lost in time, which means every year fewer and fewer original examples are still out there waiting to be found. And imagine this for a second. A quiet auction room. People sitting forward, gloves on the table. A single coin being passed under lights. Silence before each bid. Numbers slowly rising. Tension building with every pause, until someone finally pushes higher, just to win it. In certain cases, depending on condition, mint errors, and how well preserved the coin is, collectors have paid strong prices for rare Lincoln Wheat pennies and unusual 1944 variations, especially when something unusual like a mint mark error or steel strike appears. But nothing is ever guaranteed, and that's the part most people regret later. They spent coins like this without checking, not knowing what small detail they were ignoring. A missing mark, a strange color, or a metal difference that changed everything. So if you have old pennies lying around, don't rush them away. Don't assume they are nothing. Because sometimes the smallest coin in your hand is the one that decides whether you missed something important or not. And just when you think this story ends here, there is another coin, even more confusing, even more controversial, and far more dangerous to ignore, because it looks ordinary, until it doesn't. Coin number 2. If you have a 1940s Lincoln Wheat penny in your hands right now, stop for a second. Because what looks like pocket change could quietly be the kind of coin people regret ignoring later. Right now it probably looks completely ordinary. Dull copper tone, dirty surface, scratches all over it. Maybe even bent from years of circulation. The kind of penny you'd normally toss into a jar without thinking twice. And that's the trap. Because the most dangerous coins are never the shiny ones. They are the ones that look like they have zero value at all. Just sitting there, waiting to be overlooked and spent. Go back to 1940. The world was under tension. War was building pressure across nations. Industries were pushed hard, and coin production was running under heavy demand. Fast output, less perfection. More small variations slipping through. That is where coins like the 1940s Lincoln Wheat penny come from. Not perfect, not clean, but created under real pressure, which is exactly why collectors still study them closely today. Now imagine this coin in your hand. Worn edges, dark toning, fine scratches cutting across Lincoln's face. Maybe even a rough texture that feels uneven when you turn it under light. Nothing that screams value at first sight, but here is where most people miss it completely. The S mint mark, small, easy to overlook, sitting quietly on the coin, and that tiny letter can change how collectors see it depending on condition and strike details. And once you notice that, your thinking starts to shift, because suddenly it stops feeling like junk and starts feeling like something you should have paid attention to before letting it slip away. What looks worthless might not be what it seems. And that is exactly why people lose money without even realizing it. Because they never stop to check the smallest details. And here is something most people never respect enough. Never clean these coins. Not even slightly. Not even just to see details. Because cleaning destroys natural aging on the surface, and that natural layer is part of what collectors value. Once it is cleaned, it cannot be reversed. And in many cases, it drops the coin's appeal instantly, turning something potentially interesting into something far less desirable. Now think about survival, because coins from this era didn't all make it. Many were spent heavily during hard times. Melted, damaged, lost in drawers, or thrown away during house cleanouts without a second thought. That means fewer original examples remain every year. And that shrinking survival is what keeps collector attention alive even decades later. Now picture an auction room. Quiet, almost too quiet. A single coin placed under bright light. People leaning forward, watching closely, waiting. The first bid is slow. Then another, and another. But nobody rushes. Because everyone in that room knows one mistake in judgment can cost them something they might never find again. In certain cases, depending on condition, strike quality, and surface preservation, 1940s Lincoln Wheat pennies can attract strong collector interest, especially when details are sharp and original. But values always depend heavily on condition and market demand. Nothing is guaranteed, and that is the real warning here. Most people never even check what they spend. They never inspect the small coins. They never look for mint marks. They never pause long enough to realize what they might be holding. So if you have old pennies anywhere, drawers, jars, wallets, don't ignore them blindly. Because the difference between nothing and something is often just one small detail. And just when you think this is the end of the story, there is another coin, even more misunderstood, even more overlooked, and far more dangerous to ignore, because it hides in plain sight until the moment you finally notice it. Coin number 3, and last rare coin. If you have a 1956 Lincoln Wheat penny in your hand right now, especially one with no mint mark, stop everything. Because what looks harmless could already be something you should not ignore. Right now it probably looks like junk, a scratched, dirty, worn-out penny that's been through years of hands, pocket change, dropped on the ground. Maybe even left in a drawer nobody opened for decades. And that's exactly how people lose them. Because it doesn't look special. It doesn't shine. It doesn't demand attention. It looks like something you'd spend without thinking twice. But go back to 1956. The world is in a very different state. Post-war industry is still shaping economies. Production lines are running fast. And the US Mint is producing coins in massive numbers to support everyday circulation. And when production is that fast, perfection slips. Small variations happen. Subtle differences appear, and coins enter circulation that don't always look the same under a trained eye. Now picture this specific coin. A 1956 Lincoln wheat penny, worn surface, faded copper tone. Deep scratches cutting across the face. Dirt settled into the grooves. A coin that looks completely ignored by time. But here is the detail most people miss. The mint mark situation, or in this case, the absence of one. Because Philadelphia minted coins often carry no mint mark, and that small empty space becomes one of the first things collectors check. And suddenly what looked ordinary starts feeling different. Because that missing mark, that tiny detail most people never even notice, is exactly the kind of thing collectors pause for, and that's the shift. Because what looks worthless might not be what it seems. And what looks common might still carry attention from people who understand what they're seeing. But here's the hard warning that most people ignore. Never clean this coin. Not even slightly. Not even just to see details. Because cleaning destroys original surface history. And once that natural aging is gone, value drops instantly in the eyes of collectors. And here's what makes it even more intense. Most of these coins don't survive in perfect condition. They get spent without thought, damaged by time, corroded, thrown away, or simply lost in circulation forever. Which means every passing year, fewer original examples remain untouched, fewer coins stay in collectible condition, and more disappear into nothing without ever being checked. Now imagine a quiet auction room. Lights focused on a single coin under glass silence hanging heavy in the air. Experts leaning forward, studying every scratch, every mark, every detail on a worn 1956 penny. Then a bid comes in slow, careful, almost uncertain. Another follows, slightly higher. The room stays tense. No noise, just hesitation building with every number called. Because in moments like this, people aren't just buying a coin. They are buying possibility, condition, rarity signals, and the chance that something overlooked might actually matter more than expected. In certain cases, depending on preservation, surface condition, and specific mint characteristics, coins like this can attract serious collector interest. But values are never guaranteed, and everything depends on the exact example in front of you. And that's the part most people miss completely. They assume it's nothing. They spend it, they ignore it, and they never realize what small detail they just let go of. So if you ever come across old pennies, don't rush them away. Especially not a 1956 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark. Because sometimes the difference between ordinary and overlooked is just 1 second of attention. And just when you think the story is finished, there's another coin waiting, even more hidden, even more ignored, and far more dangerous to overlook. Because it looks even more ordinary than this one. Until you finally understand what you're holding.